Welcome to Whole Lot of Wolves, episode 11 of season 4. We're your hosts. I'm Joshua Buckley.
I'm Paul LePage.
Our social media expert, Mr. Danny Paletti from Baltimore Wolves, is here. How's it going, Danny?
Good. Cheers, guys.
Cheers. And from Too Fast to Forever, our good friend Joe, too. How's it going, Joe?
Hello, guys. How are you?
Good. How's the podcast going?
Good. We're doing planes, trains, and no automobiles this lap. So it's all movies about like wacky other vehicles, but it's awesome. It's going great.
Yeah, I gave him quite an episode with my choice, Paul. So be sure and check that out.
It was excellent.
Yeah, it was excellent. And Paul and Danny, you may not know this, but I happen to be one of the sponsors of Too Fast Too Forever.
He is.
And I have picked the next lap is cult 80s films. So that should be fun.
Yeah, it's looking really, really good. It's rounding out really, really nicely.
Well, thanks for the continued support you guys have mentioned our podcast every episode. I appreciate it.
Always.
All right. And so now let's get to the fun stuff, guys. Started ugly. Gary O'Neill showed off his managing chops, and lo and behold, it ends in a 2-0 or 2-1 win, which yours truly called as soon as Big Sassy came into the game on Twitter. It's time stamped. You can see I called it. Paul, exciting game. Didn't start that way though in the first half, did it?
I think we started off quite well, and I was buoyed by our attacking intent. I thought when Neto had his chance that he seemed up for it, and again, he's the man in form. He was the creative outlet, and I think even though they kind of picked us apart in some respects in terms of their goal and found somewhat of an issue with the setup, I never really thought we were out of it, and we still had plenty of the ball in the first half, still had some opportunities. But yeah, it was really when he got a chance to bring him in, make some changes second half, we really saw that turnaround straight away.
Joe, we haven't had you on since Neto has turned into, honestly, one of the top wingers in the Premier League. I think we can say this now. I mean, he leads the Premier League in assists.
I didn't know how we were gonna replace Adama's creativity, and I think we had seen it in Neto before he got injured and he was out for such a long time. Like he was always great. It was somebody that I liked. And then, yeah, he was crazy this match. Everything. I think he contributed to everything, like every chance. And it was beautiful to see. I just hope that we don't get a Diego Yada type leave immediately type situation. So, yeah, let's keep him around and let's keep going.
Good news is we got him on a pretty long contract. Danny, what does your spreadsheet say? How long's his contract? 4 more years?
That's a good question. I think it goes till 2027 or 6,
Okay.
or is it 6 and an option?
That's pretty solid.
Either way, that's solid. So you better bring the money, homeboys. Anyways, Bournemouth, they weren't really mounting much, but they scored on a counterattack in the 17th minute. And it was kind of like, uh-oh, are we going to drop some points on the road to a team that really, Paul, is pretty dismal?
Yeah, it did turn out that way, I think, and just it had the nagging feeling that it could be one of those fixtures that we've always struggled with. Again, compact ground, the crowd's right up against it, not that typical big, large, expansive pitch to play on. But I think he knew what he was doing at this particular fixture.
Well, and one of those things, Joe, was bringing on Mr. Tommy Doyle for João Gomez at halftime. What did you think of the move when it was made? Was it kind of surprising?
I found it very unsurprising considering we were wearing blue kits. I think he like eased him into it, let him feel at home, made him comfortable, you know. But no, he looked great when he brought him on, right? Like this kid was insane. Like you can see why he gets touted for like his leadership and like everything. Like I was like, oh man, we needed this, right? Like you needed somebody at the back that can just control and distribute and play defense, everything. It was beautiful to watch.
Paul, what did you think of the move?
I could see it. I don't think, whilst we weren't really overran in the first half, we showed some touches in the midfield. It just didn't look like Traore and Joe Gomez were that complement to each other. They're too similar for me, and I think you play in one or the other with the partner, and not the same time, because immediately you saw Doyle take that more defensive position, or 5 yards back from Traore, he pushed up a little bit. That pushed Cunha on even further as well. So even, I think, Danny, you call it the hockey assist. He had a hand in the goal as well, that it was his through ball into Neto to lay it off for Cunha. And that was a great goal. And all of a sudden, you've got a great move, slice them wide open, and you've got your number 9 or your main forward scoring, and that's pretty awesome.
And I think a lot of people were figuring if there was going to be a change made, it was going to be Cunha coming off there at
That's what it seemed
halftime.
like.
Yeah, because he was really struggling, and obviously he had the travel from playing with Brazil. And then lo and behold, he was the one that scored, and it was kind of out of nowhere, Joe.
Out of off the rip too, like beautiful. I don't know what Gary O'Neill said to the boys at half, but like they were saying like that the team came out really quick or something, right? Like when they was listening to the broadcast. So like I don't know what he did, but he apparently got through to them because they came out firing, and it was great, right? Like that's exactly what we needed. And yeah, I saw everybody like mad at Cunha all first half, and then like he comes and scores. It's like he was like reading Twitter at halftime or something. It was kind of amazing.
It's definitely the whole Dumb and Dumber. Just when I thought you couldn't get any dumber, you did that and totally redeemed yourself.
Amen. Exactly.
Danny, he talks about Joe just brought up what did Gary O'Neill must have said at halftime. Now, when I look at the other Wolves managers we've had, Nuno, Lodge, I feel like Lodge had a little bit of a temper. Lopetegui, obviously. Like, I think those are screaming guys at halftime if things are going wrong, right? So what does Gary O'Neill's halftime speech looks like to motivate him? I mean, I don't even know if this guy swears, right?
Gotta
Yeah.
be like disappointed dad or something.
Yeah, I don't know. If you base it on the interviews he's done recently, which I know we'll get onto, if things were working out more or less the way that he wanted them to in the first half, which is funny to say when we, are down a goal and hadn't, well, it's not like we created nothing. I mean, Neto hit the bar, there were chances, but we were creating the right moves. And so shuffling the pieces around a little bit, I think, is probably what he says. Like, we're doing what we want to be doing. And here are these little tweaks I'm going to make. We're going to get some more control in midfield with Doyle. We're going to switch Cunha and Wang, and we're just going to keep doing it.
Paul, amongst English people, I can't see Gary O'Neill throwing in a calling somebody a twat or dropping the C bomb on somebody. I mean, so what is there in England? Because I mean, I know that's pretty much you guys' go-to is the C word.
I don't think it's that guy that's going to do it to his own players, but I wouldn't be surprised if he gets worked up and it gets shouted in the direction of the opposition, or what he thinks of his opposing managers and stuff. But he's a Cockney, he's from London, he's got that edge about him a little bit, so there might be a few choice words, a little bit of rhyming slang in there. I'm not sure what the rhyming slang is for the C word or something like that, but there's bound to be something.
I feel like The Boys on Amazon Prime. Have you watched that show, Paul?
I've seen the first series, I think.
Yeah,
Bits of the
same.
second. Yeah.
You haven't watched that, Joe? I'm very
The
disappointed in
first
you.
season, we got into the first season. Dude,
Oh,
I
it's
get
such a good show.
distracted, but yes.
But it very much exposed people to how often the C word is dropped across the pond by people
Oh
across the
yeah.
pond. And I had to explain to them, look, guys, it's the exact same as asshole out here in the US. They just, happen to use the most vile word in all of
From our
American
perspective.
language.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I can't see Gary O'Neill throwing that down in a halftime speech, but whatever he said worked. Cunha equalizes, and then at that point, Paul, it really felt like it felt like a matter of time because it was all pushing. But I kind of feel like the red card that came may have actually hurt Wolves a little bit.
Why? Well, why do you say that?
Danny's shaking his head yes. I feel like when the red card came, that allowed Bournemouth. They just said, okay, we're not even going to go forward now. We're just going to back them all up. And so Wolves at one point had like 81% possession.
Oh yeah, the whole second half, but like they didn't cross the midline for like 20 minutes.
So I almost feel like, Paul, that red card made Bournemouth go, okay, we're really just need to focus on getting a point here. So they were trying to park the bus. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I did actually see some parallels to us at Luton, to be honest. That's a distinct impression that I got. But it was interesting that some of his comments that came out off the back of it, that he's never faced that situation in a managerial setting either. So it's all new to him as well. And I had a feeling that wouldn't it be typical Wolves, and as it was going on, with all of that pressure, we were creating chances, but we weren't peppering the goal a whole ton. Their keeper wasn't pulling off save after save. I just thought it would be typical Wolves that would get that opportunity at a venue that really we should be winning at with 11. And to be honest, I think we probably would have done anyway, the way we were playing and the way we were set up, particularly in the second half. But I just thought, based on them going and parking the bus, that we'd be knocking on that door for 90 plus minutes and we wouldn't get that winning goal.
All right, Joe. I know you're a big movie guy. You're a big show guy. The nominees for Best Outstanding Lead Actor in a Drama Series for the
Oh,
Emmys in
good. I have that
2023.
note already, bud. Go ahead.
I mean, it was Bob Odenkirk, Pedro Pascal, Brian Cox, Jeff Bridges, Kieran Culkin, and Jeremy Strong. Where does Hwang Hee-chan fall in that mix there among Best Actors?
His fall and hold his eye when he realizes that he made contact was so beautiful. I literally have the same note. Like Wang's acting abilities are so top tier. He sells so hard. But I mean, he touched him, right? Like,
oh yeah. Yeah,
that's the rules. So it was dumb on his part, and like that's what happens. You have to sell in case the ref doesn't see it. I get that, but yeah, he definitely saw. He got shot in the face essentially as soon as he touched him, and it was great to watch.
Danny, do you feel like that? Because we talked, I think you were the one that brought up how Huang's moving up other people's most punchable faces list. Do you think that just kind of adds to it?
Yeah, oh, definitely. There's a weird perception out there that I know where the perception comes from, and his name is Daniel Ponetz, but then Wolves are a bunch of floppers. But like, I don't know. I try to be fair about it. I don't see Wolves doing it significantly more than any other team. And I will say it is a little bit sweet hearing from Bournemouth fans about complaining about the dark arts. I mean, for all the pain that they put us through over the last 5 or so years, I mean, it's time. And it's also, if he stays on his feet, it might not get called. Like that's
Exactly.
literally why you go down, is because if you stay on your feet, they think, okay, these guys are both tussling. I'm going to give them both a yellow card. But it's a
Joe,
red card offense.
Yeah, yeah. Joe, if Hwang Hee-chan was in Squid Game in the first season, which character do you think he would have been able to replace?
Ooh, Squid Game in the first season.
And obviously, you don't need to see the name. It could just be like the dude who died here.
Yeah, maybe he's like the friend, right? Like, wait, wasn't his creepy best friend or whatever, like the
Yeah.
shady best friend? Yeah, I think maybe him.
Ooh, that was good. I was saying the two of them were down in the middle. I could see that. Did you watch Squid Game, Paul?
No,
No,
you
no. I
you
Oh,
know
it's
you
Danny's
good.
guys
taking no.
got way too much time on your hands.
Oh man,
Joe,
Squid Game is great. You guys should watch it.
Squid Game
Honestly, it's really
is
good. And they're making a new
fantastic.
season.
I know. I'm pretty stoked. They're actually making a Squid Game challenge that I saw that's going to be on Netflix coming up soon. It's like an
Oh,
actual
fun.
game show. Yeah. Yeah. So Huang He Chan, yeah, he definitely got shot by the sniper on the grassy knoll.
Yeah.
But I mean, it worked out. Like I said, I felt like that allowed Bournemouth to play back a little bit more. So it was kind of like, are they going to be able to break free? And then the 82nd minute came, and Paul, when Big Sassy walked out there, I just had a feeling. I had a feeling with the way Bournemouth was playing. I thought it would be headed in, though, right?
Well, isn't it good finally to look at our bench and see him bring someone on that's a genuine threat, even if it meant changing the setup in the way that we were approaching it, that for the last 10 minutes you could have been throwing those balls into the box and seeing what happened. So it's just phenomenal that we have got that option. And with cameos like that, if you're the opponents, you're looking over your shoulder thinking, uh-oh, there's another problem that we've got to try and solve in these last few minutes. So it's really nice to have that type of asset that we can look and draw on.
Haven't we felt that way? Like at the beginning of the season, everybody's like, where are we going to get goals from? Where are we going to get goals from? And like finally you see like 4 or 5 guys and you're like, oh, these are legitimate guys that can score, like maybe as a striker, maybe like creating some chances. It's crazy to finally feel like, oh, a goal can come, right? Not like we have to get lucky to get a goal. So yeah, I think it's very promising when I watch.
Like Saturday, you've got all 4 forwards involved in some goal activity, either assist or scoring.
Yeah, Danny, before the season, everybody's like, where the goal's going to come from? And now suddenly there's no problems. What do you think the reason is for that?
Well, the reason we all doubted it is because we had no assurances. I mean, Sasha coming
No, the
back
real
from a long
reason.
injury.
The real reason.
The real reason we started scoring. Does it have something to do with lemons and salt being rubbed on a man's body somewhere
I
in
think so.
Houston?
Look, guys, I'm just saying, we haven't won every game since then, but by God, we've scored in every game.
And we weren't before.
I didn't say it was a curse to win. I just said it was to break the scoring curse. So, Danny, percentage that my curse breaking has impacted the team, right? Out of how much percent do you think I've played into this?
100%. That's the way curses work, right? I mean,
I can't take all because there is talent still, Paul. So I think more like maybe 90%. Do you think that's fair?
Like 95, like around 95. Okay. Like that would be nice.
Yeah, I think screw interviewing Gary O'Neill about his tactical masterclass. I should just get you on, Josh, to talk about how wonderful you are spreading salt and lemon over your body.
I mean, I still don't understand why Nathan Judah hasn't reached out to me. Once again, I was getting a couple thousand more views on my video. I'm just saying. Now that is shameless promotion there for sure. But I thought what was really neat, and Gary O'Neill actually brought this up, which we'll talk about when he went on TV yesterday and was kind of breaking down the game. And he said how cool, calm, and collected Big Sassy is with the ball at his feet. We just assume when he comes in, all you have to do is kick it up to him and he's going to head it in. But I mean, this was one of those that I think a Wolves team in the past, Paul, would have fluffed that shot.
Well, I don't think it would have even got to the shot because that through ball from Wang was phenomenal. We've not had that player put an opportunity like that on someone's toe for goodness knows how long. So just to craft the move in the first place was unbelievable. But to have that killer instinct, didn't take a touch, didn't panic, side of his foot. You just had that feeling when he burst on through that he was going to put it in the back of the net, and it worked out. It was brilliant.
The crossing has been better too. Just like everything playing in the box. Like I don't know what Gary O'Neill's telling them to do that they weren't before, but or if they're personally juiced that like Loopy leaves and now they have some like a chip on their shoulder or what. But it's wild to see the difference even from the beginning of the season, I think.
Yeah, it was, and it still looks a little weird, Danny, when he's got the ball at his feet. It's like, like it looks like a newborn giraffe who's like still kind of like he expected stumbling, but man, just clinical. Oh,
he went to like the Erling Haaland School of Running or something, right? Like they kind of have the same like lanky gait that happens.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. It's something that I remember people talking about when we first signed him, is that like, watch out for this guy with the ball at his feet because he'll surprise you. It's not necessarily going to look pretty, but he's actually very good with the ball at his feet. And we saw that with the first time pass that he had in the cup.
Yeah,
and then obviously that big cross to Neto in the Villa game. These are all very difficult passes to make, especially under that kind of pressure. And he does seem to have it, whatever that is.
So, Paul, exciting win. They held on, got the 2-1 win. Who was your man of the match?
I'm going Neto based on the assist for the first. He continues to be the best outlet and the best threat. Some of his football, some of the touches, the turns, that's the type that gets supporters really bought in, or you're turning that on as a neutral. You're seeing him pull those tricks out and retain the ball and put those moves together, be a fulcrum with all of that. You'll keep watching that team based on players like Pedro Neto. So Neto for me. But honourable, huge mention to Tommy Doyle. Like fantastic. Thought he was brilliant.
How about you, Joe?
I also was gonna go Neto, but I think that I have to do a split man of the match between Gary O'Neill and the Blue Kits. I think both of those played a giant role in the win, and I think that without either of them, this could have gone south.
It has salvaged the Blue Kit from the Luton effect that if we'd had a bad result on Saturday,
a cursed kit.
That may well have been cursed, and you never want a cursed kit.
No, you never want a cursed kit.
We've won a game in all three kits already. This has got to be a record beyond anything else this season.
Oh, yeah. Normally we only wear the red kit like once.
We won in the red against Everton, didn't we?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, normally that away kit is only
worn. Makers on the line.
Yeah, that away kit's normally only worn against like Liverpool or something, and so yeah, it never has a chance. But that's a good point. Wow, and they're all sharp kits this year.
Blue kits, I'm telling you, playing a big role here.
Interesting. Danny, who was your man of the match?
I will spare an honorable mention for Sasha, who, according to my math, is currently standing at 4.2 goals per 90. Because he has played about 43 minutes of football in the Premier League and scored 2 match-winning goals.
Incredible.
But for me, I think it has to be Cunha. And I might be biased a little bit by some of the stuff we're about to talk about with the stuff Gary O'Neill said, but something he said in those interviews is that like Cunha just is a person who wants the ball at his feet. He wants the ball to go through him because he knows that he can make something happen. And we've all seen that that's not always the case, that sometimes he's not on it. But I love that. And I also love what he brought, especially in the second half, when they switched him out wide. And I mean, that finish was great. That's one of the better finishes we've seen this year. So
yeah, I still have to give it to Tommy Doyle. I think he really changed the game. But Hwang and his Oscar performance also.
Top tier.
Deserve an honorable mention right there, man.
How old is
And
Tommy Doyle?
reflect,
Is he only 21? He's like really young, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's incredible. I love it.
21 England under 21 international. So the promise is there. So
I felt
Amazing.
and
really good when our Man City friends from Noisy Neighbors were talking about him and like going on and on. I was like, maybe we might have
yeah,
something here. And yeah, that was
and reflected in our man of the match conversation. How nice is it to have 2 assists by 2 wingers and 2 goals by 2 strikers or wide men? I'll say.
never thought I'd see it.
I know. What year is this?
So we've talked a little bit about this already, guys, and there was a no stupid question from Steve Young on X saying Gary O'Neill was talking tactics on Monday Night Football in season on TV for all to see. And that was a nice look into what goes into the game plan. Is this a common occurrence, Paul?
so I'm not sure in terms of particularly Sky's setup back in the UK. I think they may have done this more tactical focus for this season and had different coaches on more of a detailed view. But it just seems in general, I think we get in like really granular with the coverage now that it's getting to this point of like where can you get it from if it's not directly from the people themselves. So there's so many channels out there in terms of stats and performance metrics like Opta and all of those, and then you got those in-depth things like the coach's voice interviews. So I'm pretty sure like the likes of Sky and the broadcasters, they're picking up on that type of stuff. And even with like over here and NBC do it more where they have definitely more X's and O type coverage of the plays and the detail from guys that they've been retired a good few years now. Like Phil Neville popped up the other day. So he hasn't played for a while, but they're asking him about, well, he's still got that knowledge of how David Moyes sets up and plays for West Ham. So it's asking those types of questions. So I just think in general, there's that thirst for as much detail behind the scenes as possible because there's so much more opportunity to get it from a bunch of different sources nowadays.
Joe, on a revenge scale of 1 to 10, where does it fall for Gary O'Neill to go into Bournemouth, beat them, and then go on national TV and explain how you did it?
It's incredible. This is why I watch sports, literally. Like I mean, you get the enjoyment of the game that you're watching, but the backstory, the drama behind it, seeing him go back to his old club and like win at their stadium, it's just like that's what brings me to stay with a sport. And like that gives me every context that I need. So I think the revenge is amazing. I'm very happy for him. I think that the team knows this, right? Like your team, how many times do we see like a weird trap game in sports that like, like some guy is just mad that the other team traded him or something, right? Like it's just something weird and like this guy is just inspired and like anything can happen on any given Sunday, any given Saturday, and it's awesome to watch. I love it.
Danny, what kind of stuff did you really learn in that segment that Gary O'Neill had?
I mean, the most interesting thing to me was, I mean, in a lot of ways, it was stuff that we kind of already knew. It's way more detailed than supporters usually know. Like when you're frustrated at a game or you're elated about a game, like it just seems like, oh, we wanted it more, or they weren't really at it, or our strikers can't hit a barn door, like that kind of thing. But like the stuff that actually wins a lot of these games is certain amount of preparation and understanding certain scenarios on small parts of the pitch, creating, um, what they say, overloads, but are essentially, like pockets of of like dominance with it, whether you have three against two or four against three or whatever, and they prepare for all these things. But it's also interesting in Gary's specific case that like he knows that he has only a limited amount of time at the beginning of the season because things can go poorly and he could be out of the job instantly. um, which I don't think anybody would have been that surprised. If we had lost the first 6 games or something and they fired him, I don't think anybody would have been that shocked with that. But he talked about, like how you can get people to buy in by seeing that these things are working. And that's sort of like what we were talking about with the Bournemouth game, where it's like these things were working in the first half. We were creating the overloads that we wanted, where we'd bypass a couple of midfielders and suddenly we'd have this 4-on-3 break. Um, and the players see that. And that's sort of like what Matt Hobbs has talked about, is that the players seem to really be responding to that. They really enjoy what he's doing because they can see results. He's helping them play better, get more out of the team as a collective.
And Paul, watching that segment to me really highlighted how ridiculous it would have been to fire Gary O'Neill after, a month and a half, because he's talking about, hey, some of these things we're still working on the training, and I didn't even have all the guys this week because they were on international break. And so I was thinking about today, it would be honestly like, your company giving you a promotion, Paul, and then going, yeah, you have 6 weeks to get a record amount of sales, and if not, you're fired. Like, what? Come on. It's pretty ridiculous, isn't it?
It is. There's a horrible short-termism with it all, and that's just the glamour of fan base, of expectations, of everything that drives it. And I certainly wasn't convinced that his appointment at the outset by any stretch, but I certainly wasn't one to be really clamoring for his dismissal even after the Ipswich debacle, because this stuff happens. We've had even going off the back of Saturday, it was a good win. Personally, I still think I still had enough confidence that we would have beaten versus 11. But Bournemouth they are a poor side. If it continues like this, they're going to be down and around there as it stands. We could, in theory, get smashed when Newcastle come on Saturday, just because we're still a mid-table EPL team, and that's what happens. But if you do project it out, like I think I saw the stats so far is what average of 1.22 points a game. That's 46 points across the season. That's phenomenal. That's comfortably mid-place. You would have snapped your hands off. You will snap my hand off for that finish come the end of the season from a guy that was given the job 5 days before kickoff. So that's got to be factored into it. And if we're able to build on it, if all the positives, the momentum builds, we're going to have some ups and downs. But if everything comes together, we might have a little bit of a flutter in the transfer window in January, maybe have a good second half to the season. Next summer onwards, if he gets a whole pre-season with his squad, his players, they've all bought into it, it could have turned into a master stroke.
Joe, can you imagine what American sports would be like if managers and coaches
just thinking
fired?
this, dude. We watched, as a person that watched a lot of the NFL, we watched Hugh Jackson lose 31 of 32 games in Cleveland, and he was still employed till the end. Paul called it the what is it, like the right nowism or whatever,
the recency
that it's amazing when I watch this to see the Premier League flip managers this quick. I'm a pretty optimistic just sports fan in general. And like when Gary O'Neill was hired and everybody's like, first loss, everybody's like, get rid of him. I'm like, these are not his players. He's been here for four. Have you ever tried to do anything at a new job in 4 days? Like you said it. Like, how can you imagine? Like he barely like got his login, right? Like he got his ID yesterday. Like the guy doesn't know where the bathrooms are yet. Can you just like give it a week and a half, like a month to see where we're going? Yeah, it's crazy. I kind of like it. It's enjoyable in a weird way, but like the momentum that the fans can create and force a team and a coach and a club to make decisions is wild compared to American sports. Like, like some of the owners of American sports teams are like, nope, this is your coach. Like, this is what we're doing. We're not firing him. Just deal. And that's how it works sometimes.
But I think that's where the club have been. They've picked up on that, and they've thought we've got a job to do here to not appease the fan base, but we got a communications challenge. And they've not only done it with O'Neill recently, they've also done it with Matt Hobbs, in that they're shining the spotlight on those two guys who both in different ways are really good orators. That Hobbs can talk about what goes on behind the scenes, how hard he works, the profile of players that he looks after. O'Neill now he's got very much that reputation of being very tactically driven, every avenue's explored. But now you're starting to see some of his personality come out a little bit more. He's smiling a little more. You get a hint of what he's about as a person. And I think if it has been a conscious PR effort, it's been a masterstroke, because all of a sudden you've started to turn that negative sentiment around a little bit for people who may have been on the fence, like myself. All of a sudden I'm bought into it more, because I'm that nerd that likes the tactical element. If he's talking stuff like that and I'm seeing it working, I'm bought into it. I'm hanging off his every word, So I think it could all have been different had we just scraped a point on Saturday, and he could have gone on Monday Night Football and the fan base would have been what's he doing on there? He can't even beat Bournemouth away against 10 men. So you got that fickle element about it as well. But I'm gonna ride this wave while it's high, and enjoy it while we can.
Hearts and minds is a powerful thing, man. And like we see this every year. If you watch HBO's Hard Knocks for the NFL teams, every year they have a team that's usually pretty bad, and everybody watches it. And week one, everybody's excited for this team to win, just because you have a comfort with this team and seeing behind the veil, and it's great. I agree with you. I think that like them doing the PR of letting Gary O'Neill talk and having Hobbs come out, all of these things, like it will assuage the fan base to at least they're not rioting against you. If you can just be a genuine human and somebody that's like, you see that they care as well. Like, I think that it's actually for the best to reveal, what's happening a little bit, just for you want everybody on the right side. Right. So it's great.
On this vein, another stupid question that fits in this portion was Chris Worsfold on Twitter or X, and he says that the analysis showed that we actually started the Bournemouth game as a four at the back, with Toty on the left, out near a left wing. I watched the game, he said, and although I'd say tactically I usually see things, this I did not. And what about you guys? And I think for me it was somewhat of a strange one. You couldn't quite tell, but then it's what I think O'Neill talks about, and it's probably the most vivid example, was there was some flexibility in it on Saturday, that it was a flip between the two. And it was probably the most distinct we've seen it, where it was a four during certain passages of play, then distinctly a 5 in others. Now, that's probably where the breakdown happened a little with their goal, that they were caught.
Well, I think that's what he said.
Yeah, not picking up the runner as well. So there again, there's some intricacies with it all. The players have really got to be bought into that to be turning that over in their minds about how they're setting up what they need to do, how to win their individual battles. I think it was, again, him talking prior to the game with an interview with the BBC, and he said, my ideal is for me to not be there and the players play the game that I want them to. So
Genius.
putting the trust in them to carry out his will on the pitch and not need that type of instruction. So that's got a lot of promise if he's got that nucleus of player that can be molded in that way to really take that forward and grow with the team, grow with the club. And personally, I think a lot of the current squad will be bought into that, and it will, if it is successful, that's going to be a big pull for other players as well, because he's going to have the likes of Cunha saying to his Brazilian counterparts, this guy's fantastic. I've never played for a better coach who lets me do this, and this. I've got this two-way dialogue with him. Neto's going to say, I've never been in better form. The guy just lets me play and do my natural game, you know. Chani, you know, hit the ball, hitting the back of the net. It's just like the potential's there, because we've certainly got it in these players. We might have a coach that can bring it out of them and bring it out of the team as a collective.
This might be the right fit for us too, right? Like, I mean, I feel like we've been through some managers now that were trying to fit players into their system as opposed to maximizing the skills of these guys. And you have to remember that, like, all these players, like, they played this game since they were children, right? This is a kid's game that they started out playing. So, like, they know how to play. Like, you have to give them somewhat boundaries or rules that you kind of want them to do. But, like, they know the game. They know what they're good at. They know who else is the good to connect with them. So, like, let them kind of run it the way that they see is the best way and just guide, not direct and like have orders. I think it might be a good fit. I hope that it's a good fit for a long time.
I always say in sports, the best coach or manager is the one that adapts their system to fit the players, not tries to change the players to fit their system. If you've only got one system and that's all you run, you're a bad coach. And I think Gary O'Neill has shown that. I mean, he was essentially, when he was breaking it down, he was kind of running two systems at the same time. And I think one of the reasons Chris wasn't necessarily seeing the back four is because we got to remember camera angles. And what Gary O'Neill was saying was when they were in offense, Aitnery was kind of coming up more as a midfielder and it was a back four. But then when it was adjusting and they were moving back to defense, that's when it would kind of shift over to a five. Well, in that case, you're seeing a lot more if you're at the game as opposed to watching on TV.
Final no stupid question for this week was from the Wolves Women podcast. They ask, how would you describe being 8 Black Country Derby wins on the bounce? Wasn't that a good
How do
result?
you feel about that, Paul?
Anything against West Brom is amazing. 8 on the bounce is phenomenal. So yeah, keep it up, Wolves Women. Long may it continue.
Yeah, it is funny. I'll just mention something about Wolves Women, but I do want to ask, I don't like to compare them that much, but can you imagine if the men's team was currently on an 8-win run against the Baggies, scoring 24 goals in that time?
So that's like, sadly, it feels more like the opposite at the moment. A token draw thrown in there a few times, but an horrendous record at the Hawthorns going back, geez, 20 years, I think, something stupid like that. So yeah, just for that minuscule ray of light from Wolves Women would be monumental.
Yeah, and I listened to this one. Honestly, one of the more subdued matchups against West Brom that Wolves Women have had. There have been some big score lines in the past, and this one was just 3-1. And it was pretty nervy, actually. Wolves Women scored 2 goals just before halftime. So up until then, it felt like, maybe this was not going to go well. although they were pretty dominant, they had most of the ball, etc. And then West Brom scored well, not right after half, but like soon after half, and then it was just the whole time like this is not what we want to be feeling. But as she always does, Tammy George stepped up near the end and had a brilliant strike that she finished the game with 3-1. And you can see that Wolves women obviously posted it. They're doing pretty well this year. I've still been listening to all the games. I think they're in third right now with a game or two in hand. It's going to be tight. There's a lot of investment in the FAWNL this year.
As there should be.
Some of the teams have gone semi-pro, which Wolves women still haven't done. Um, and Newcastle have pumped a bunch of money into their team, unsurprisingly. I know. So it's going to be really tight at the top. But I think I mentioned this at the end of last year, but it's officially changed now so that the top team goes up automatically instead of the playoff nonsense. So hopefully that is what happens this year.
Can we call it the Wolves rule?
I know, if only it were retroactive.
Yeah, right.
That was no stupid questions. That was the opportunity for you, the listener, to get in touch and ask us anything you like related to this wonderful club of ours. You can do that on the socials, Twitter, X, on our Facebook. You can email hello@wholelotofwolves.com. And it is brought to you by Espresso Wines, which showcases 3 generations of winemaking in every bottle. And do, for that limited time, head to espressowines.com, use that promo code WOLVES at checkout, and you're going to receive a 15% discount on your order.
Ooh. Joe, do you think you can get Joey on the wine club? What do you think? Is he a wine guy? He seems like a wine guy.
He's not a really big drinker I think I do enough drinking for both of us. So
understandable.
yeah, I think I do that. So I don't think I've ever seen him drink a glass of wine. A couple beers, but like I've never seen Joey drunk. I haven't.
Well, I'm looking forward to. I've been kind of traveling a lot, so I haven't had time to sign up, but definitely going to do it. Great sponsors to have, great wine from what Alex says. So looking forward to trying it.
No Stupid Questions is presented by Esfuerzo Wines. Located just north of Santa Barbara, California, Esfuerzo Wines showcases passion and 3 generations of winemaking in every bottle. So whether you're celebrating a Wolves victory or winding down after a day at work, let Esfuerzo Wines transport you to the heart of California's wine country with every sip. For a limited time, head to esfuerzowines.com and use the promo code WOLVES for a 15% discount on your wine purchases. This message is intended for those of legal drinking age. Do not drink and drive. Excessive alcohol consumption may be harmful to your health. If you or someone you know is struggling with alcohol abuse, please seek help. Esfuerzo Wines reminds you to enjoy their products responsibly and in moderation.
All right, guys, it's some Saturday afternoon football for those of you on the East Coast, 12:30 p.m. For me and Paul,
Ooh, nice.
It's still 11:30 a.m., but against Newcastle. Newcastle's been kind of on a roll lately. Paul, what do you think realistically Paul O'Neill will be looking for from a result here?
I think this is going to be a really interesting game in that we're going to get more of a pulse of where we're at. So Saturday, we can build off momentum of that. We're not looking over our shoulder anymore, really thinking, oh, we, a couple of bad results. We're going to be in the thick of a relegation battle at the moment. So we've kind of got that detachment from the bottom 3. So the pressure will be lifted. And I think O'Neill is going to be looking at this, thinking, I've got a real opportunity to showcase the team in this fixture against an opponent that's going to come and play. They're going to be looking to get a result. And it's going to be an opportunity for me to show what we are truly capable of. That being said, I wouldn't be surprised if he plays it quite defensive and not similarly like Man City, but show Newcastle the respect that they deserve. So I wouldn't be one for ruling out a fairly defensive set up in the hope that they could get the first goal, maybe try and get the second on the break, or it could just turn into what feels like annual 1-1 draw.
It's true. Always seems that way. Joe, Mario Lamina will be back from suspension. Of course, I'm
Nice.
sure he'll get a yellow card this game and be suspended for the next game. So it is what it is. But who is going to be his partner? Obviously, we're kind of seeing João Gomez, Boubacar Traore, probably not the best combo together, but João Gomez and Mario Lamina have been good. Or does Tommy Doyle get a surprise start?
I think you got to go back to the kid, though, right? Like, this is, I mean, I don't know. I'm sure Gary has a different view being there all the time, but I like the riding the hot hand. I like the giving the kid his props for his second half. I like all of these things. I like playing young kids. I always think that that's beneficial just to a team in general and just like how they're doing. So, I don't know. I say you give him a first half, and if you need to sub him off at the half, if he's in the thick of it and he's not doing good. But yeah, I say give Doyle a shot, man. Like let him put his heels in and see what he can do. And if he keep tight reins, if he starts to struggle a little bit, or you don't think that this is working, pull him off, switch him out, sub him out. You'll be fine. But yeah, I like that. I like that the best. See what you got.
Danny, we're in a weird spot now. It seems like we almost have too many midfielders that have an argument for starting. We have Lamina, we have João Gomez, Tommy Doyle, Boubacar Traore. I still think his best role is coming off the bench, and we can't forget, our Bellegarde of the Galaxy. What do you make of that midfielder situation now?
I don't know. It's a real conundrum, and I think Bellegarde is probably the biggest question among them. I mean, kind of going through them, I mean, Lamina is so useful for just protecting our back line. We know what João Gomez can do, which is a bit of the same. And then, Boubacar really gives us much more ability to move up the field. He can really make, like with the ball at his feet or like a quick pass. He's very unique. Tommy Doyle's a bit more of a passer. I mean, looking back at old, like Wolves players from a year or two or three ago, he's closest to someone like Moutinho. And then of course there's Bellegarde, who is much more of a runner, much closer to Mateus Nunes. And don't forget also Joe Hodge, who's still banging around somewhere. He probably needs a loan, assuming that, there are no major injuries or changes between now and January. But again, a bit more of a like Moutinho Terrier type. It's weird. I mean, it's nice to have options. I do think that in this one, I worry that Newcastle their midfield can be very physical. And I wonder if Doyle is not the right choice for this one. I might be interested in seeing Lamina and Boubacar for the difference that they give us. But I also would be surprised if we see something like 3 in midfield or something to try to get more out of that. I'm not sure. And again, the biggest question mark is Bellegarde. He got suspended seemingly at exactly the wrong time for his prospects starting in the team, because suddenly, there are just all these other options that seem better to us now.
I mean, we say it was the wrong time, but then they went around and beat Man City. So, it's
great for the team. Maybe not great for his prospect for starting.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me a lot of when Neves got suspended for a couple of games, and then suddenly João Gomez came in there, and you're like, man, maybe it's a good.
That was the first inkling. We were watching it. I remember. I think I was on like right around that time that this happened, and we were like, maybe we don't need Neves a little bit. It's like one of these things. You like start to see the other side. You're like, yeah, maybe.
That said, I think Bellegarde is far more versatile than people know yet, and hopefully we'll start to see that.
Yeah, and Gary O'Neill will probably have the best idea just seeing him on the training ground. Paul, it's nice to have a team that has a bunch of kids that you root for, and there's not like somebody who you're like, I guess we need him on the team. but he's kind of a dick. Potence.
Or people that want to be here.
Yeah,
right?
people that want to be here.
Yeah.
This feels
It
like
is.
old Wolves, though, right?
It is. It's got certainly elements of the squad that Nuno fostered. Certainly elements going back even further of that young and hungry mantra that was the from back in the Mick McCarthy years, that you get those younger players of a lesser value, but the option that they're gonna do well, and hopefully that value increases and they turn into an asset that either sticks with you and you advance, or you're able to cash in on them and reinvest. So depending on which way this team evolves, you've got some opportunities for success, I think, thanks to the guys that are in that first 11 or battling hard to be a starter.
It's a fun team again. That's
That's what I was just about to say, but I'm with you. This is the team that I fell in love with. The team that like can beat any given day. They can come out and win. You don't have to like they're gonna come back. They'll score a goal late. This is what made me fall in love with Wolves when I wasn't watching for a specific team. Like that was it. I think that they have charm. They definitely have charm again, and that's an awesome place to be. Like, I mean, not everybody can win every year. So like at least give me some optimism, something to look forward to, people to latch on to, things like this, and I'm sold. So
Danny, who's the most charming player on the team, and why is it Big Sassy?
ooh.
He certainly seems like a very nice boy. I think Cunha's got a good claim at being the most charming with those dazzling
He's
teeth.
handsome. Yeah, he is. He's super handsome. I was thinking that as I was watching it too. Neto's a stunning man as well. Like we have a team full of lookers again. I'm excited about that. Fabio got the long hair. I mean, everybody down the line.
And don't forget João Gomez. I bet there's a lot of ladies in Wolverhampton that
oh yeah,
hope to bump into him at the grocery store.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Is that what we call it out there, Paul? Grocery store? What's it called in England?
Supermarket.
Supermarket. Okay. I don't know anymore. Y'all don't like peanut butter and jelly. Y'all don't like games on.
They're not on the peanut butter and jelly. I think peanut butter is like strictly an American thing, right? Like it's pretty American.
We got peanut butter, but just not that combo.
The follow-up conversations on Twitter that confirming that they have no concept of peanut butter just blew my mind. It just absolute.
We don't even need to introduce them to fluffernutters or anything, right? Like this is too far beyond.
That's definitely a different expression in England.
What, fluffernutter?
Yeah.
That's some of the Gary O'Neill Cockney slang that he says to the other manager.
Yeah.
Calls him a fluffernutter.
Whenever I do see Stu from the Fancast in person, should I bring him some of that marshmallow spread?
Oh yeah, the fluff, man, the classic. I introduced this to some Croatians once, and they were like, "We can never buy this again because we ate the whole thing." Okay. That's what I told you.
Have you had one of those, Paul?
No. So
yeah,
do they sell
what we're talking about?
Do you know what we're talking about? It's like marshmallow just in spread. Okay, so you get like this gooey marshmallow in a jar.
It's like in the cake section for like topping. Yeah, I know what you're referencing.
Okay, so you take a sandwich, you make half of that, half peanut butter. Oh, let me tell you, my
some
friend.
Bananas on it to really.
Oh, some bananas is good. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. There's a reason we're the fattest goddamn country in the world.
Amen. We do it right.
Real quick, Paul, what would you be upset about the game on Christmas Eve? I got into a discussion with some people about it. To me, as an American, I'm like, oh, that's pretty sweet, but a little different over there. I'm learning a lot.
Time. It's just that filthy lucre of the broadcasters changing stuff on a whim, and again paying no consideration to the match going fan. So it's pretty impossible, like from all sorts of angles that you look on that particular day to stage a sporting fixture based on the complexities of England and travel and all sorts. It never works. So that's why it's never been a Christmas Eve fixture. The tradition has always been Boxing Day, and everyone's prepared for it, and everyone can plan around that type of stuff. When you get those big sweeping changes, it's got nothing to do with the fans. It's just that television company trying to get their money's worth, and it doesn't jive, and that's what's the most galling about it all.
See, I feel like as American sports fans, we're just kind of desensitized. There's 10
Amen.
NFL games. There's 10 NFL games on Christmas Eve, and to me, I'm like, oh, cool.
This sounds like a great night, or Thanksgiving Day, right? You're cooking a turkey,
Day,
you're watching with your family, so you don't have to listen to them talk. I think this sounds like a great idea.
Now, one thing I will say, I had some conversation with some people, with the exception of the one dickhead who said, well, school shootings are more common in the US too. Yeah, that guy can go fuck himself. But the other people who were talking about making mincemeat pies on Christmas Eve and going to the pantomime, which of course then I had to ask what the pantomime was, very interesting. Look, guys, you can't sit there and criticize the team for not spending $50-60 million in the transfer window and then complain that TV's making all the decisions. That's where the money ain't coming from you guys is like ticket in the Steve Bowl stand. Like,
no, not for the prices you guys pay. I see that you guys complaining about the prices, like what 30 pound tickets, and I'm like, you guys have no idea what we pay here. But
it's one of those deals where I think as more American owners take over there, I think more the English fans are going to kind of see what we're talking about here. Danny's just itching to give me counterpoint. And I like Danny because Danny's always got the view from both sides, I feel like.
I'm going to try to salvage my reputation with any of our British listeners, which I'll just leave it at this. I would not go around and brag that you're being ripped off by millionaire owners being forced to pay over $100.
I understand.
This is not the flex that you think it is.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
That's not what I was making. I was just saying, like,
super rich owner is ripping me off for $200 of tickets to an NFL game when they can't even get relegated. Like, they could have the worst team, like you said, a team that loses 31 out of 32 games.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna buy a $16 beer.
Yep.
Zero consequences.
I think part of that is starting to move over because I think the UK is starting to see really like how the US owners are doing it. So I agree. I think it's awesome. Some of the stuff they really do where they care more about the fans, I think in general over there. Whereas to here, we're very much just there to add
consumers.
Fans are
consumers,
and TV's the big money, but you can't have it both ways too. You can't sit there and be mad if Wolves aren't spending a ton in the transfer window, but then complain, oh, well, we need to boycott these TV companies. Well, it's not an either or, guys. Like it comes with the territory, and that's kind of what you learn. That's how you end up with, teams spending more money out here.
Next week, we're going to have a dramatic reading of whatever you get in your DMs from Stu and anyone else.
No, so Stu and I actually had a conversation because he listened to something with an American owner and he wrote back and was like, I kind of see what you're talking about now. And I'm definitely, let me make this clear. I'm definitely not saying that the American way is the best way because I don't like paying that much. I'm going to the Dynamo playoff game Sunday. $55 a ticket for the playoff game. 55
MLS.
MLS playoff game when normally I can get those tickets for like 24. So jacked it up. I was worried that there was going to be a World Series game the day of, in which case parking would have been $100 parking down there. It's ridiculous, but I think it's a matter of we've just kind of been coached, so it's desensitized to us. Like the big monies we're paying for ticket, the games on holidays, to us that's just kind of commonplace. So when I just saw the uproar about the Christmas Eve game, and I was like, well, that's interesting, because to hear we wouldn't think anything of it. It's just like, oh, okay, that's kind of a cool little thing, you know.
Yeah, hopefully somebody like Alvin Kamara wears like a green boot and a red boot or something, right? Like we get something fun out of it. That's the only thing we'd care about.
And Paul is now once again regretting bringing me on this podcast. I mean, you definitely see now, though, Paul, in the country, kind of what we're talking about as far as how the U.S. owners, fans are just kind of, right?
You are, yeah, and again, it does come back to that. That it's not a tradition. It's like you get those Thanksgiving games, you get those Christmas Day games. Why? Because people are at home, you know. They got nothing better to do than watch, you know, have your food, sit down and watch the game. So there's that element to it for sure. But it's just how there's a balance with it all, I think, and there's some elements that, you know, there's some elements with it all that you got to protect, and I think this is one area that if you start chipping away at all of this stuff, like eventually it's all going to crumble, because you've lost that real nucleus, you've lost that core of what makes the game what it is in the first place.
To be honest, on the flip, I have great respect of the pushback of English fans for many things that the Premier League does. And like I do respect so much that that people do loudly oppose ticket price changes and things like that, and trying to keep the game what they imagine it, that they want it and imagine it to be. And that is really cool. And I think that's something that we should take back in America. And like, yes, so like you saying like, oh yeah, if this is a sacred thing and you don't want Christmas Eve games, like I support you guys. And like this is awesome. And like maybe we should have done that and not given up every holiday.
That is the truth.
Maybe
we should have been so, you know,
yeah,
just
we should have been so
whatever.
complacent for it. Yes. So yes, I see the other side too, and I respect it.
I guess to really like cement my status as the UK's #1 fan this week, you know, maybe if we had shown the fighting spirit that we did in 1776, then sports wouldn't be on Christmas Eve.
Right.
I'll be sure and share Josh's hate DMs this week, Danny. Now, I love you guys. And I'm definitely, I do want to make sure I'm not criticizing. The only thing I would say is you can't expect big money being spent without needing that TV money. That TV money's thing. So, but we're slaves to that TV money now, and to millionaire owners, as Danny pointed out. It's a great point. It's a great point. Sorry, Paul, I jumped on a little tangent there. What's your prediction for the game?
Oh yeah, I forgot we're still on it. Shit. Okay, am I gonna go that swashbuckling win, that 1-1 draw, or that we get smashed by a really good team? It seems I'm first. I've got to take that 1-1 draw, and actually I'll be pretty happy with it.
All right, Joe. You're in the guest spot, which is in second right now with 10 points.
What does that mean?
In the standings, that's right. Alex is in first with 11. Our guest spot has 10 points. Me and Paul tied for 4, and then Danny, you got a point, so you have 3 points now.
Okay,
got a point.
I was gonna go with Paul and do 1-1 draw, but you know what? I will go a 2-2 draw.
2-2.
I think that's what we'll do. We'll pull one. I actually think we go down 2-0 and come back and score 2.
Ooh, that's fun. I don't know if my heart can take that, but that's fun.
No, I'm not ready for it either, but that's what I want.
Danny?
You guys have left me with nothing because I really want to draw, and a 0-0 just doesn't sound right. We've been scoring in every game.
3-3.
We've
Do it.
also,
3-3.
yeah,
Do
I
it.
know that would be something, a 6-goal thriller on a Saturday afternoon. Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, the narrative is all set for Gary O'Neill to pull out a masterclass, and suddenly he's on the talk of everyone's lips. Whichever team's not doing so well near the top, and they're going to start linking him and stressing us
He
out.
did say
So
he did say that Wolves were a big club as compared to Bournemouth. That added to the
That definitely
I
did.
know.
I loved it.
He knew what he was doing. It's similar to the post match, when he kind of looks at the camera where he says, it wasn't about that. Anyway, no, I'm not going to do anything crazy. I'm going to stick with Paul's 1-1. That feels right.
It does feel right, and that's why I'm going with 1-1 as well.
Wow.
I know we're kind of boring. Maybe Alex will jump in with the 3-3 or the Wolves win. And of course, you can go online to a whole lot of Wolves on our website. We have our prediction league. And Paul, last week, Todd DeWitt predicted the 2-1 Wolves win. So he has 7 points now. Steve Young's still in first place with 8. And Dan Wilkes has 5 points. He had a 1-1 draw this last week against Bournemouth. So no points, but he's been doing pretty good as well.
And ahead of the game on Saturday for our fans in New York or those visiting New York on the weekend, New York Wolves, in partnership with the football club, have a special meetup planned, which is all around the LA Wolves documentary screening. So it is going to be courtesy of the club and the New York Wolves venue, which is McHale's, and it will be the first US screening of the Wolves Studios documentary in 1967 when LA Wolves conquered the USA. That's going to be immediately prior to kickoff of the Newcastle game. It's at McHale's Bar and Grill, which is 251 West 51st Street in New York, 11 a.m. in the morning. Eastern time is that documentary with special content. Again, the kickoff for the game is 12:30 Eastern time. Obviously, there's that the documentary special content. They've got other giveaways and stuff planned through the club. So it plans to be a really great event if you are in New York and get the chance to watch the documentary. From what we've picked up on and everything that's gone on in the UK with that production, it looks and sounds fantastic. So can't wait to check it out ourselves. But if you're in New York, go ahead and join up with New York Wolves ahead of the game on Saturday, and you can get a watch as well.
I'm out of whiskey. So Joe, too, tell us what you got going on over in Too Fast, Too Forever.
Oh, yes. I am the co-host at Too Fast, Too Forever. You can find us everything at Too Fast, the number 2, Forever, and at cageclub.me. Like I told you guys at the top of the episode, currently we're covering planes, trains, and everything but automobiles as our side movies, and we watch Fast and the Furious movies every 3 weeks on loop. We're in lap, I think, 13 now. We've watched these movies 13 times in a row. We're just trying to stay sane through them, but we still have fun, and we talk about all kinds of other fun movies and sports and all kinds of weird stuff. So come listen to me and my co-host Joey talk about goofy shit and these guys and all kinds of other fun stuff.
Thanks for listening this week. We're going to be back same time, same place. And next week, we're going to review that Newcastle game, then preview a trip to Bramall Lane when we take on Sheffield United, which will be a week on Saturday. So get in touch if you'd like us to share your watch party plans, or if you're looking for fellow fans in your city to watch alongside. Also, a 5-star review on your podcast platform of choice also helps boost our reach to fans across the country as well. So thanks to Alex producing, Danny on the socials, and it's a drink in the Gary O'Neill Kool-Aid up the mighty walls from us.